Alright, so what comes inside the box of the Lenovo ThinkPad L580? So we have our ThinkPad L580 startup guide. We have our ThinkPad safety and warranty guide. Let's put that to the side. We have our power cable and we have our power adapter, which is 65 watts with a Type-C connection. So let's plug this guy in. Bam, that's it. Alright guys, like you saw at the very beginning of the video, a quick unboxing, and inside the box there's not a lot, but we do have this beautiful Lenovo ThinkPad L580, which is the big brother of the L480. So let's get down to the review. Now the L580 is a pretty solid build, which is made out of PC and ABS plastic. It does have a little weight to it. It weighs around 4.46 pounds. So if you have a book bag or a duffel bag or a laptop bag, you definitely need to use it for this particular laptop. Now, one of the things that the L580 does not lack is ports and connections. But I did find it strange that it has the same amount of ports and connections just like its little brother, the L480. Now, if you have the laptop to the point that you're able to open it up like this, all right, on the right hand side, let's check out what it has. Now we have a combo jack, which allows us to hook up a mic and a headphone set. We have a 3.1 USB port, and then you have your vent system right here. Now on the left hand side, we have one RJ45 or your Ethernet ports, a micro SD card slot, an HDMI, an additional 3.1 USB port, always on charging. And we have two Type-C ports. Now this one right here allows you to hook up your ThinkPad docking station. And this one right here allows you to hook up your power adapter. Alright, so let's open up the L580. Let's open this guy real slow. Awesome. Let's take our sweet time. What? Nice. Now the first thing that catches my eye is it has a full keyboard layout with a number pad. Huge plus. It does have a fingerprint scanner. Awesome. On the space bar, it gives me that indication that, you know, the keyboard is backlit. Huge plus. And the power button is located right here on the top. Awesome. Cool, cool, cool. So we're going to power this guy on. Now with the L580, it does have the fingerprint scanner. I like using it when the laptop has it. So why not, right? So we're going to use our finger. I kind of configured the laptop with my index finger. So let's log in. Now let's start with the trackpad on the L580. Now the trackpad, super awesome. I didn't have any issues like its little brother. With the L480, I had issues with the lower left corner. It was not allowing me to click. Right now, if I click on this folder on the lower left corner, I'm able to open it. On the L480, I had a lot of issues with that. I did have a little bit of slight delay when I was using the trackpad with Premiere and Photoshop. I don't really recommend using a trackpad with those two applications. A mouse would work better, but I needed to test out the trackpad. But that's the only time that I had a little slight delay. Now for measurement, if you want to know the measurement of the trackpad, if you take about 3 pennies and 2 nickels, that's the measurement that you're going to get for this trackpad, which is a nice little real estate. You're able to do a lot with it. Now, if you have your hands on your home keys, you are able to use your thumbs to navigate with no problem. It's a little bit odd for people with small hands, but if you have long hands, you are able to do it with no problem. So how about the keyboard on the L580? Now the keys feel extremely smooth and nice on my fingertips. The distance between each key is about, if you take a penny and a nickel, that's what you're going to get. The whole keyboard layout with the additional number pad is a awesome plus for me. Also with the keyboard, it is backlit, which is another additional feature. I love that. I love keyboards with backlit. That's a huge plus for me. Now the only thing I do not like on the L580 is the location of the function key and the control key. Right? The function key is supposed to be in between the control key and the Windows key. That's not the case. But Lenovo does provide you an option to switch it over with Lenovo's Vantage application that they do provide within their laptop. If you open it up and you go to hardware settings, and from here you want to go to input, and if you go all the way in the bottom, let's go right here, you're able to swap it and then just press OK and then you're good to go. Now, one of the things that the L580 has that the L480 does not have, and that's a larger display screen. The L580 has a beautiful 15.6 Full HD IPS anti-glare display with a resolution of 1920 by 1080. Now, for nits, it goes up to 250 nits. Now, this is the highest brightness that the L580 could go to. For the lowest, this is the lowest. Right? For me, where I'm standing, I'm able to see the wallpaper as well as the icon. Now, the way that you guys are viewing the screen, it looks completely blacked out. And that's because of the anti-glare technology on this particular screen. So let's raise up the brightness. Awesome. Now, one of the cool things about the L580 is that it comes with two Type-C ports. With these two Type-C ports, it allows me to hook up an external monitor. I was able to hook up my BenQ 4K monitor and still get the full resolution with no issues. Now, with the 15.6-inch display, we also have a webcam. Now, the webcam is 720p, which works extremely well when you're doing like Skype calls or Zoom calls that needs a webcam. It just works. Super clear. Had no issues when I was doing Skype calls with my friends. Awesome. Now, I did notice a little bit of heating issue around the keyboard and around the display when I was doing my Skype call. I kind of felt that heat. I don't think it's the Skype itself or doing video conferencing. I think is because I was using it with Photoshop and Adobe Premiere. I was rendering a couple of 4K and 1080p videos. It does get extremely warm around this area, especially around the display area. Now, I mentioned a couple of times me using Premiere as well as Photoshop on this machine. Now, the L580 is capable of handling those applications with no problem. And the reason why is because of the specifications. So let's right-click on the taskbar. Let's go to Task Manager. Let's maximize this window. Let's go to Performance. Let's right-click on the CPU, change it to logical processors, and the L580 is running a quad-core Intel i5-8250U processor with a clock speed of 1.60 gigahertz. Awesome. I think with Turbo Boost, you could get it up to maybe 3.4. Memory, it has about 8 gigs of memory, but you can max it out with 32 gigs, which is awesome. Now, for a graphics processor, it only comes with an Intel Ultra HD Graphics 620, which I did have some problems with this machine and Adobe Premiere. It's, again, for some reason, some ThinkPads always give me problems with Adobe Premiere and dealing with the whole green issue problem. But the quick fix is really simple. You just need to adjust your project settings to do software rather than the graphics card. Now, with the specifications on the L580, I'm able to do my day-to-day work stuff with Adobe Premiere, Photoshop. I was also able to use OBS to capture some game footage with no problem. But because of the great specifications that this machine has, I'm losing something, and that's battery life. Now, with all my laptop reviews, I like to use PC Mark 3 times to kind of test out the battery life. On the fourth one, I charge the battery up to 100%, take it home, and just use it without the power supply. Now, for PC Mark, the first test, it gave it around 4 hours and 18 minutes. On the second test, it took around 3 hours and 12 minutes. And on the last test, it took about 4 hours and 6 minutes. So that kind of gave me the impression that when I took it home, I'm going to get about 4.5 to 5 hours depending on how I use it. Now, I also like to keep track of how long the battery life charges up. Now, for the L580, it took around 1 hour and 52 minutes. For me, that's pretty long due to the fact that it has a Type-C power adapter port to charge it. Should not take an hour. I would say maybe 45 to 56 minutes. Now, for test number 4, I started at home with 99%. I powered it on, and it took about 4 hours and 54 minutes, close to 5 hours, which is not that bad. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, okay, battery is sucky on the L580. The specifications are pretty good with the 8th generation processor, right? This particular model that I've been reviewing for you guys has about 256 gig solid state drive, which is a huge plus, right? A lot of space. So what's the price, right? Maybe $1,500. Well, not really. So let's go inside the Lenovo site And the starting price for the L580 is around $879.20. Close to 900 bucks, right? But what are you going to get with that? Let's go to tech specs. The L580 is only locked into an i5 processor. You can't get an i7 processor, which kind of sucks. With the 8th generation, you're only going to get an 8250. Clock speed is 1.60, and you can get it up to 3.40 with turbo boost. You could also get a 7th generation processor, 7200U, and the clock speed on that is 250, and you can get it up to 310. Now, I would definitely go with the 8th generation processor, even though that the clock speed on the 7th generation is a little higher starting off with, right? The primary operating system is going to be Windows 10 Home. For display size, you got two types, which is really weird. You got an HD and Full HD. They both have anti-glare, and the one with the full resolution of 1920 by 1080 is the one that's going to give you the IPS. Battery life, they're indicating 11 hours, but for me, I kind of proved that wrong. I got around 5 hours. Memory size, like I showed you guys, up to 32 gigs, which is good. For storage, you could get a 500 gig, 72 RPM SATA drive, or a 256 gig solid state drive. I would definitely go for the solid state drive. And then you got all this cool security feature. Now let's view the current models. Now, it looks like Lenovo's only advertising two models, and they're both under $1,000. The most expensive one right now is the 879, and that's going to give you the 8th generation processor with the i5 8250U, full resolution, 8 gigs of memory. That sucks. I'm assuming if you customize it, you could probably get 32 gigs. The most expensive one is definitely going to give you that solid state drive. The one that's less expensive, which is around 700 bucks, is only going to give you that 500 gig hard drive. The expensive one is also going to give you a better graphics processor, which is the Ultra HD Graphics 620. This is a huge plus because for me, I was able to hook up my BenQ 4K monitor, and I was able to see the full resolution, which is awesome. Now, one of the things you're definitely going to lose is the fingerprint reader. The less expensive one does not have the fingerprint reader. I'm assuming that you could probably customize it, but it's going to cost more. It's kind of silly. Just give it to us. It's a ThinkPad. I think all ThinkPads should have a fingerprint reader off the bat. That's an additional security layer. Why not have it, right? All right, guys, so let's conclude our review on the L580. Now, a couple of things. Heating. Like I said before, heating, I noticed it around the keyboard area as well as the display. But underneath, when I was using the laptop on my lap, it wasn't to the point that it was burning my lap. Laptops are typical to get warm, but it really depends on what you're doing for it to get really hot. I didn't have that issue at all for this particular model. Now, for pricing, for under $1,000 is not that bad. But the L480 is also under $1,000. So you're probably saying to yourself, what's the difference? The difference is between both models is that you're going to get a bigger widescreen on the L580. The screen size is 15.6 and the L480 is only 14 inches. On the L580, you're going to get a full keyboard layout with the number pad. That's it. That's the only thing that you're going to get between those two. That's the difference. Because the L480 and the 580 share the same specifications as well as the ports and connection. Now for traveling, I wouldn't recommend leaving the power supply at home because of the short battery life. Again, I only got around 4.5 hours. If I'd have tweaked the settings within Windows 10, I could have probably got maybe 5, maybe 5.5. But again, if you need a laptop with power such as the L580, do not leave the power supply because the battery life is not too great. And that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my review on the ThinkPad L580. If you have any questions or concerns, leave them at the bottom. Don't forget about hitting that like button, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.